Something very important for me. I want you all to keep your eyes peeled. Now, I've had a report from one of the other boats that a pod of porpoises, small dolphins, they've been spotted around Greenwich. So as we continue our journey downstream, do keep your eyes peeled, folks. You might see some small dolphins as we journey on down. They are incredibly rare. We've seen this pod of about 5 or 6 of them since February this year. They are very hard to spot, so do keep your eyes peeled, folks. I'm going to try and keep my eyes out as well, see if I can spot them for you. But knowing my luck, folks, I'll point them out to you if we see them, and by the time you turn around and look, they'll be gone. But I'll try my best. Now, all across our right-hand side here, this large complex of buildings, this is Butler's Wharf. These are once the biggest and busiest commercial warehouses in London, known as the Lardon of London. These are all tea warehouses. Today though, mostly luxury apartments on those middle and upper floors. On the ground level, a variety of bars, restaurants and shops. Take a look past the last Butler's Wharf building here, an opening in the river's wall with a footbridge that goes over the top of it. And this is the entrance to St Saviour's Docks, also known as Dockhead on Bermondsey. Now, Charles Dickens, he is originally from this part of South London, and it's said that he based many of the characters in the novel Oliver on the people he would meet whilst living in the area and writing the novel. If you've ever seen the old black and white film, the musical Oliver Twist, a lot of it was filmed in these docks, as the area had remained pretty much untouched since the times of Charles Dickens. Now, just coming up ahead of us and to the left there, we've got a brown brick building with Oliver's Wharf written across the side of it. This is believed to be one of the first of the old riverside warehouses that would go on to be converted into luxury apartments. For many years, the singer and actress Cher, she would live in the penthouse apartment of this building. She was getting very fed up though with us pleasure boats constantly telling everyone where she lived. We'd receive many cease and desist letters, all of which we just ignore, and eventually she got so fed up that she decided to pack up and move to a new apartment in Chelsea Harbour. Apartment block A, apartment number 27. Just before Oliver's Wharf there, that large brown brick house with the security cameras around the outside, this is the home of a British actress called Dame Helen Mirren. Now, in between her home and Oliver's Wharf there, an old Thameside pub called the Town of Ramsgate. This was used as an admiralty court in the 1700s by a man called Hanging Judge Jeffreys. Convicted pirates and smugglers would receive their last tot of rum from behind the bar. They'd be led down the set of stairs here and along this foreshore on the low tide to the brown brick building with a capital letter E in the apex, Execution Dock. And it was there at Execution Dock where Judge Jeffreys would sentence his prisoners to their deaths. They would be hung by the neck until they were nearly dead, then cut down and chained to the river's wall, awaiting for free high tides to pass their heads before they'd be pronounced well and truly dead. This form of execution was known as the Grace of Wapping. Whilst the executions were taking place, Judge Jeffreys would sit in the tavern on the right there, called the Angel. He would sit on the balcony, drinking his pint of ale and watching his executions taking place on the opposite shore. Said that he found this highly amusing. Now, also here on that right-hand side, we have a church spire that sticks out from behind the row of old warehouses. St Mary's Church of Rotherhithe. Buried in the graveyard of the church, you will find the body of the ship captain, Sir Christopher Jones. He was the master of the pilgrim ship Mayflower, which was built in this section of our river here before it would set sail along to Plymouth to pick up some pilgrim fathers and then cross the North Atlantic to the New World of America. This was done with a crew of 40 local Rotherhithe men. Upon the ship's return, it was broken down on the foreshore here. The timbers used to make furniture inside the church. You see 2 flagpoles on the river pool there as well on the right, British and American flags. We have the Mayflower pub behind the 2 flagpoles there, with the anchor of the ship, the pub's overvain. This is the only pub in England where you can purchase American and British postage stamps over the bar with your pint, and that's to honour American and Anglo relations. Now, you can also honour Irish relations in there as well. Get yourself a pint of Guinness. Now, also here on the right, a small warehouse with a blue painted door. The open space with the trees next to it, that's Pilgrim's Park. Have a look there, you can see a cast iron statue of one of the Pilgrim fathers and his child who journeyed on board the Mayflower to America. In the child's hand, there's a book. It details each of the names of the crew members who served on board the ship. Cross over to the left now, we're going to see a white house on the riverfront there. That's the Prospect of Whitby, the oldest pub on the banks of the Thames, established in 1520, back during the reign of King Henry VIII. Back then though, folks, this pub wasn't called the Prospect, it was known as the Devil's Punch Bowl, due to all the unsavoury characters who frequented the pub. Mostly river pirates, smugglers, murderers, the old East End gangsters of London. I've also heard, folks, Boris Johnson, he's been in there once or twice. The pub changed its name to the Prospect in honour of the Whitby coaling fleets from Yorkshire. They would anchor outside, service the wharf next door. Many of the crew were regulars in the pub. During one of their voyages back home, they would encounter a very violent storm. The ship would be sunk and the entire crew lost. So the pub changed its name in honour of the fallen crew. Also on the left, you see that large red brick building. It's very strangely shapen. Now, this is an apartment complex today, and I've been told the building was designed to provide each of the apartments with a riverside facing view. So therefore, you're allowed to charge more money for each of the apartments inside. I had a look on Zoopla yesterday afternoon. The cheapest apartment I could find was a single bedroom studio flat. It was selling for £500,000. But this apartment complex was built on the site of a famous old warehouse called Free Trade Wharf, and that earned its name dating back to the Great Plague of London of 1665. Back during this plague year, no one would trade in London. That was out of fear of catching the plague and bringing it back home with them. Everyone except for the Dutch, and over there is where they'd berth their ships. Due to their bravery, our king at the time, King Charles II, he would make a concession stating that every time a Dutch merchant ship were to enter a port in London, they would do so for free. They'd be waived all port tolls and taxes. This concession still stands today. Now we're going to still stay to our left-hand side. We're going to see the lock entrance to Limehouse Marina, where if you have a small enough boat, like a canal barge, you can enter into the marina, find yourself in a place called Limehouse Basin. You can travel up to North London, a place called Camden Lock, Little Venice, join up with the Regent's Canal and the Grand Union Canals. Working your way up the canal systems of England, you can travel as far as Birmingham, Liverpool or Manchester. If you wanted to do this though, it's going to take you a while, it might take you a week or two. You're going to be travelling at a speed of about 4 miles an hour, and you need to manually operate close to 200 lock entrances. The old Dockmaster's house by the entrance, that's now a gastro pub, it's called the Narrow, and that's owned by Gordon Ramsay, the celebrity chef. If you're wondering what's the difference between a gastro pub and a regular pub, it's about an additional £3.50 per pint. But not to worry, we have another Thameside pub on the left here, the narrow brown brick house with 3 wooden balconies. That's the Grapes of Limehouse. Charles Dickens was living in the tiny attic room of the pub whilst writing his novel, Our Mutual Friends. But back then though, folks, this pub wasn't called the Grapes, it was known as the Six Johnny Fellowship of Porters. Today, it's owned by a British actor called Sir Ian McKellen. He played Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, and he also lives 4 buildings down from the pub, in the home with the orange statue of a man in the garden. That's his London residence. Now we're just going around a large bend on the river now, folks. All the bends on the Thames, they're named for navigational purposes. They're called points. This point is known as Cuckold's Point. Cuckold's an old English word, it means the husband of an adulteress. And it was here at Cuckold's Point on the right hand side where many years ago
Ibrahim.
ducking stalls used to stand. if husbands found their wives were misbehaving, they would drag them down to Cuckold's Point, have them strapped in a ducking stool and dunked into the river. I've been told, folks, this is a very popular place on a Sunday morning, and I have heard from a very reliable source they want to bring this practice back into action. That's Cuckold's Point here on our right. But you might notice on the left here, look at all these tall glass buildings. This is all part of the Canary Wharf development at the site of the old West India docks, which is now largely closed to commercial shipping. The docks really fell into decline in the late 80s. Now, you can see though, the whole area has been pretty much rejuvenated, revitalised. You can see lots of well-established banks have office buildings here. Buildings belonging to HSBC, Citibank, JP Morgan, Barclays. You'll even find the European headquarters for the Bank of Hong Kong over here as well. But it's not just banking buildings and offices to find here today. Lots of bars and restaurants, various hotels, shopping centres, leisure centres, cinemas, arcades, bowling alleys. There is so much to see and do over here. This is like its own little city. They continue to build more and more skyscrapers here. This reminds me a little bit of like a London version of Manhattan, if you will. And they even want to build a skyscraper, the Shard over here as well. But we're going to see how they get on with that, with London City Airport so close by. That's just a little bit further downstream in the Royal Albert Docks. Now, if you have now we've passed Canary Wharf now, we have entered into an area of the river called Limehouse Reach. It's also known as Windy Reach. Now, on a day like today, a bit of a breeze isn't really a bad thing. It's quite hot here in London. We never get it this hot really, so we're going to make the most of it. We're going to enjoy it. But I will have to just warn anyone on the top deck. Occasionally, we will get quite a strong gust of wind, so please do be careful. If you have a loose hat or a wig, I have seen many a syrup blown to a watery grave at this point, folks. Do please be careful. Now, if you take a look down the river ahead of us, you will see nothing. There's not a lot to talk about down this part of the river, I'm afraid, but do keep your eyes peeled. As I mentioned, you might see some dolphins if we're lucky, folks, but they are very rare. I've seen them about 4 or 5 times this year. Oh, has someone seen them? I think they're on our left here. Look at that, I couldn't have planned it any better. I pay these dolphins to come out and see me, folks.
Yeah, dolphin there.
Now, these aren't actually dolphins, folks. These are harbour porpoises. They're little small things. They come up from the estuary. They chase all the schools of fish. Just there, folks. They've just gone down, just behind us there. Have a look. Hopefully, there we go. See, I wasn't lying to you, folks. I lie sometimes, not all the time. I was being truthful about the dolphins. Okay. Now, it's always lovely to see them in the Thames. It's lovely how much the river's been cleaned up in recent years now. Biologically dead in the 50s, but today we have dolphins back in the river, we've got seals, even sharks now come up the Thames. They use it as a nursery, so it is lovely to have so much wildlife back in our river. But anyway, folks, I'm glad we saw those dolphins. That's made me really happy. I hope it's made you happy as well, guys. Now, there's not a lot to talk about, so we're going to come to an end of the guided commentary. Greenwich is just going to come into view as we round this bend here. When we approach Greenwich, folks, I'll tell you a little bit about the points of interest in the Royal Borough, the returning boat times as well. But if you're not too bothered about getting off the boat and seeing Greenwich, you can just stay on board. We're going to return straight away back up to Westminster. We'll make one little stop on the way at the Tower, and then the boat will terminate at Westminster on the return journey. But just before I just put the microphone down for a little bit, quick word about these commentaries. As you've all no doubt definitely noticed, I did also point it out to you as we left Festival Pier, but we're not professional guides on the boats, we're just crew members. Over the years, we've all made an effort to learn these live commentaries to make your journeys with us a little bit more interesting, perhaps even enjoyable. If you've listened to the commentary this afternoon, understood it, perhaps even enjoyed it, and would like to show any form of appreciations for our efforts as guides, you may do so in a moment. I'm going to quickly walk around the boat holding the captain's champagne ice bucket, which is just the boat's little tip bucket. If you'd like to put a few pound coins, notes, dollars or euros into the bucket, you are more than welcome to do so. Of course, folks, I must stress, please do not feel obliged to put anything into the bucket. It's just for you feel like my few words as your guide have been worth. Please remember though, folks, I will be that young man who helps you off the boat. If you have any further questions as I walk around, please feel free to ask and I'll try my best to answer them. Thank you.
ওর কথাতে যদি ভালো লাগে কোনো কিছু দান করতে চাইলে ইউরো ডলার আমেরিকান ডলার সিঙ্গাপুর ডলার সরি ইটস ওকে ওকে নো প্রবলেম ইটস ওকে ওকে নো ওয়ারি এরকম করে কত কিছু আয় করতেছে ইব্রাহিম Careful apa, এদিকে শুরু শুরু এখন আমার কাছে না আবার ব্যাক করবে আমাদেরকে ব্যাক করে আবার ইয়েতে নিয়ে যাবে না ইব্রাহিম
We are making our way into Greenwich. Lots of things to see and do here. The large 3-mast ship, the famous tea clipper, the Putty Side, built in Dunbar, Scotland, boarding Greenwich dry dock since the 1950s. Originally built as a China tea clipper, anyway, one of the most to China 15 deep was obsolete. It's having a sites to the Australian Borough, now a museum ship open to the public. Large white building, 2 domes on top. The site of the old Royal Greenwich Naval College, former headquarters to the Royal Navy, now the home of the University of Greenwich Economics. You also find the National Maritime Museum behind the building. In Greenwich Park, it's a 15-minute walk, 30-minute walk really, on top of a very steep hill of the national, you have the Royal Greenwich Observatory with the Meridian line runs from the centre of the building. It's possible to stroll between the eastern and the western hemispheres. Lots of pubs and restaurants in Greenwich to be found, folks. If you fancy a bite to eat, maybe a couple of pints before you return with us upstream later on, you're more than welcome to do so. As we mentioned, folks, this boat returns straight away to Westminster. We leave in 5 minutes' time. We leave at 2:40 to return upstream. After we leave though, folks, returning boats are every half